Struggling to earn 3 stars at Town Hall 16? Well, these are the 5 best attack strategies you'll be able to use even after the May balance changes to 3-star any base. Kicking us off at number 5 is Super Dragons. These guys are still fairly strong, and despite not having the Electro Fangs, you'll still be able to do a Dragon Duke charge to get plenty of funneling and value. Now for this attack, we want to start off with the Dragon Duke charge. We're going to use a few rocket balloons to control the pathing of the Dragon Duke as we kind of move along, where we'll use our invisibility spells every 4 seconds. Keep in mind, the Dragon Duke's range is 0.3 tiles, so you got to be very careful with your invisibility spells, so pay attention to his shadow. This should help you a lot because you can use the Stun Blaster to minimize a lot of damage and save a few invis spells before continuing to use them again, but otherwise you're just doing this to create a bit of funneling and pathing, and once all of your spells have expired and you have no more left, you can leave them alone, with where you can then use the giant arrow from the Archer Queen to snipe down air defenses, which will still work post-nerf. You're still going to be able to set up great funneling with it as well. Otherwise, we're going to use the Super Dragons, the Sky Wagon, alongside the Warden and the Prince as we work in. You do want to make sure that you are using totem spells to distract a lot of enemy hero fire or other defensive damage, and that way what you're able to do is use the Eternal Tome and Healing Tome to keep a lot of your Super Dragons alive, possibly even using the Dark Orb of the Grand Warden to minimize a lot of damage through the core of the base towards the back end, and you just want to continue to use your totem spells to distract things like these scatter shots or air defenses, etc. This should allow you to keep a large chunk of your troops alive. So even when you have a majority kind of split off, those that don't necessarily need spell support, you can use your totem spells and freeze spells to support them instead, allowing you to get through other areas of the base even when you only have 1 or 2 Super Dragons alive helping you out. This is why we can use our freeze spells specifically over air defenses or other splash damage defenses like multi-target infernos, and overall you'll be able to dominate with this so long as you just time your spells correctly and you basically overall have good funneling and easy path through the entire base, making Super Dragons a lot more reliable. But this is a very strong strategy and should be able to allow you to earn 3 stars with Super Dragons. Moving over to number 4 is the Root Rider Smash. This is still a very powerful strategy and is really strong thanks to the Dragon Duke and obviously the Royal Champion Charge. Now for this attack, we're going to be starting off with a Royal Champion Charge. This is going to establish a little bit of pathing for our Root Rider push while still getting some key defenses down, such as the Scatter Shot here. We want to use our invisibility spells every 10 seconds. This allows us to offset our invisibility spells again with the Spirit Fox. This is going to allow us to get plenty of defenses down while we work through. You do want to make sure though that you are placing that spell over the Fox and the Royal Champion, so that way the Fox doesn't go down super early. But you do want to make sure though that you are getting enough value and possibly even double cycling when you get close to things like the Monolith or CC. Once all invis spells have been used, you can recall her back to your army. This is then where you can use the Dragon Duke in order to get some additional value. Keep in mind that the Flameblower is going to attack wherever the Duke is facing, so you can still take advantage of this as long as you have the Jelly, where 1 Earthquake is still going to be enough to remove a lot of things. Otherwise, that kind of creates a bit of nice pathing and also allows you to use the Root Riders along with the Grand Warden, Royal Champion, and Valkyries. You obviously have the Archer Queen where you're going to use her to funnel. Thanks to her ranged attacks, you're able to create really good funneling, and with the Mirror in Action figure, you're able to secure that. So while the Root Riders are working themselves in, you've got the Sky Wagon providing a lot of that support as you continue to move around the base, and overall this should create really good pathing as you work around. The Overgrowth is great here in order to control a lot of your Root Riders as they work around, where you can also use the Eternal Tome to protect everything around your Root Riders with the Valkyries, maybe your Skywagon siege troops, and this overall will have so much overkill as you work around. You even have totem spells to minimize a lot of damage against things like the ricochet cannons, maybe add an additional target for the multi-archer towers, but overall you should be able to absolutely dominate bases with Root Riders just with how strong they are thanks to the Skywagon and the Dragon Duke especially. As for number 3 is the Super Bowlers with the Heroic Torch. This is slowly but surely becoming the best ground attack strategy and is by no means bad, as the Super Bowlers can take advantage of the Heroic Torch, especially with rage spells. Now for this attack, we're going to be starting with a Royal Champion charge. Similar to Root Riders, we are doing this to set up pathing for, namely here, the Super Bowlers. We're going to use our invisibility spells about every 10 seconds to offset the invisibility from the Spirit Fox and the spell before we get close to something like a Monolith or the CC, where we can then start to double cycle our invisibility spells. Using them roughly at the intervals of 7 and 4, we're able to keep a lot of that damage from the Monolith or luring out the CC too much, so we can then clear enough funneling where we can recall her back to our army. We can then go ahead and set up funneling on the other side with the Giant Arrow on one side with the Archer Queen and the Dragon Duke going for defenses. This allows us to create really good funneling inside the base and outside the base in order to get great coverage. This is where we can then have the Super Bowlers working alongside the Warden, and of course the recalled Royal Champion. We can deal with the enemy CC, but as we start to slowly push into the core of the base, we have the Duke with his Stun Blaster to get additional value, and alongside this, a Rage Spell and the Heroic Torch from the Grand Warden is going to just do so much work. Super Bowlers underneath Rage are incredibly powerful, and when you have the Heroic Torch, this is super scary. You also have the Royal Champion with her Rocket Spear to get additional defenses down, and with a Revive spell, you can get that Dragon Duke right back up to do plenty of damage. The Super Bowlers are just going to continue to take advantage of the Heroic Torch, and it's just incredibly strong for them just because of how much damage they do and how much they take advantage of having no weaknesses to walls, especially with it active. Otherwise, this should allow you to 3-star more often than not. As for number 2, we have Dragon Riders. They are still very strong, and the nerf only applied to Town Hall 18, meaning that you can use Dragon Riders to your heart's content at Town Hall 16. Now, in order to do this, you have the Giant Arrow to snipe down air defenses, since that is all that it's going to mostly be used for, so you can use the Queen on one side to set up funneling and the Dragon Duke on the other. He's going to mainly go for defenses since he has the jelly, and he's going to be able to set up great funneling for your main Dragon Rider push, which is namely going to go through the core of the base. The Stun Blaster allows you to get a little bit more defenses down while staying relatively protected, where you can then send in your Grand Warden, the Baby Dragon or the Inferno Dragons, the Dragon Riders, and the Minion Prince as you work in. The Skywagon provides additional troops, and despite the nerf to that coming up, it's still going to be very strong just because of the amount of troops it's able to bring to the table. You also have the Eternal Tome and Healing Tome as you reach the core of the base, and a Rage Spell to power up all of your troops as they enter through the core of the base. The Overgrowth spell is there to pretty much control the pathing, and once it expires, you can use some of your other spells, mainly the totem spells, to distract a lot of the defenses. The scatter shots, the monolith, air defenses, all of those defenses will want to be distracted. So try to time your spells, your totem spells, more effectively in order to allow a lot of your Dragon Riders, Inferno Dragons to stay alive and still get enough value to 3-star. This is overall a very strong strategy that really doesn't have a lot of downsides, especially with how strong Dragon Riders are. And for number 1, we have none other than Hydra, and despite the nerfs to the Jetpack Giant Arrow combo, it's still going to be very powerful with the Flame Blower so long as you have the Angry Jelly. You want to mainly first start this off with a few rocket balloons in order to clear any nearby defenses. You want to control the Dragon Duke so he goes in the right direction, so he's facing towards the core. This allows you to use an Earthquake spell, and with the Flame Blower and the Jetpack, you're able to clear as much value. So try to take advantage of that. The giant arrow from the Archer Queen, though, is again aimed at clearing out as many air defenses as possible. This allows you to mitigate a lot of damage, especially to your dragons and dragon riders as you work around. You can use your dragons, dragon riders, prince, the warden, and the Skywagon siege as you work around the base. This is going to allow you to continue to get additional value as you work around, with the dragons and the dragon riders just being really strong together. The overgrowth is there to mitigate a lot of damage while controlling funneling for your main push. This is going to allow you to use the Eternal Tome and Healing Tome as you go through the core Town Hall Poison, and as you reach towards the back end, you can 100% start using the totem spells to mitigate a lot of damage, and you can even use the Prince with his Dark Orb in order to slow down defenses. This especially helps when you're dealing with things like the scatter shots, the air defenses, etc. And overall, this is still going to be really big overkill with all of these troops still alive. And despite any nerfs that are coming, it's still going to be one of the best strategies that you can use. Now, hopefully this helps you in finding the best attack strategy for you, and with so many different ways to play, whether that is using air attacks or ground attacks, this should give you an idea even after the balance changes. Overall, if you want a guide covering the Royal Champion Charge though, I recommend checking out this video right here, but YouTube says you may prefer this one instead.